This video will spoil up to episode 68 of Attack on Titan. Eren Yeager's character arc is tied to both the plot and the world in Attack on Titan. As he changes, so does how we, the audience, view the story. In this video, I'll be talking about each arc and how Eren and the audience's views change together. Attack on Titan was first presented to us as a very simple story. The message of episode 1 to both Eren and the audience is clear. Titans are pure evil monsters who need to be eradicated. The trial start conveys this message very well. As the arc with the most Titan kills by far, its job is to make the horror of the Titans set in. By the end of this arc, the stage was set. Many believe that Attack on Titan was the anime equivalent to The Walking Dead. The series went viral soon after its anime debut, and for several years many people dismissed it as a shallow story about monsters fighting humans. However, AOT subverts this initial premise that we were given, not only for the audience but for the characters as well, Eren in particular. The beginning of this subversion begins in the first major arc. Our view of AOT's world was first thrown into question when Eren himself emerged from a Titan's nape. But at this point in the story, it's easy to accept the simple explanation that Eren and his powers are an exception. Eren believed this too, believing that he was some sort of chosen one, and that he himself was the only one with the power to wipe out the Titans. He didn't question the true nature of his ability. Both ours and Eren's perception of the Titans was first really questioned in episode 15, when we met Hanji. Hanji was the first character to show curiosity and empathy towards the Titans. Eren was shocked to find someone who felt something beyond hatred for the Titans, and he was enamored by what she had to say. Hanji doesn't have the answers, but this is the first time we're presented with the possibility that there's more to the Titans than we can see. Eren's view of Titans as monsters was really shaken for the first time when he learned the identity of the female Titan. This is the first time that Eren's idea of what the Titans were was thrown into question. At first he wasn't able to accept reality, outright denying what he saw with his own eyes. He couldn't understand why she had done what she had done. The same goes for Reiner and Bertold after he learned what they were. He, like the audience, assumed that they are enemies bent on wiping out the human race. At this point in the story, Eren hates his enemies, saying it is his job to give Reiner and Bertolt the most excruciating deaths possible. Eren's attitude towards Reiner is the greatest indication of his mindset, and by re-examining how he feels towards Reiner at different parts of the story, we can understand how Eren changes. The Uprising arc was the biggest shift up to this point in how Eren and the audience perceived the world. Right after learning that all Titans were human in origin, it became clear that the government of the Walls was in some way related to the origin of the Titans. While we didn't yet understand exactly how, this shifted both the focus of the series and the characters from mindless monsters to humans with different ideologies. At this point, Titans seemed like an easier problem to deal with. From then on in the story, it became clear that humans themselves were the real threat to humanity's survival. This change in the core conflict is emblematic of the series as a whole. Eren's black and white view of the world had been tested multiple times up to this point, but he hadn't confronted the reality of his own situation. He had convinced himself that his enemies were incomprehensibly evil monsters that needed to be destroyed, and that he was a special savior of humanity. Eren's ego shattered when he learned that he was no better than the Titans that he hated so much. As a Titan, he had eaten his own father, and his father murdered children to obtain that power in the first place. He believed that he was a chosen savior of humanity, but he learned that he had only arisen out of the same cruelty that he hated. What's more, humanity's powerless to fight back against the Titans was a result of him being given these powers. In his mind, all of the deaths that had happened on his behalf, which he had previously thought of as unavoidable sacrifices for humanity, were preventable. As his entire worldview collapsed, he begged Historia to eat him. After making it out of this situation, Eren's demeanor permanently changed. He no longer considered himself a savior, but instead knew that he was thrown into this situation by chance.
他の兵士が俺のために死ぬことも仕方がないって受け入れた。巨人の力だってそうだ。あれほど憎んだ巨人も自分の体だとすんなり受け入れられたのも、その強さは自分のものだと思いたかったから。俺は特別でも何でもないのに。
After hearing his mother's words from Keith, he's able to accept this new mindset, acting as humanity's weapon just because it is the best that they have.
私はそうは思いませんよ。少なくともこの子は偉大になんてならなくてもいい。だからこの子はもう偉いんです。この世界に生まれてきてくれたんだから。
Eren's changed mindset can be seen when Historia asks him if he's prepared to kill Reiner and Bertolt, and he responds it isn't because he wants to, but because he has to. He also begins to question who exactly it is that they're fighting against, now that he understands Titans are people trapped in endless nightmares. At long last, the basement was reached, and the mystery of the Titans was finally revealed. Titans are not monsters, but are victims of a conflict the same as our main characters. The once idealized world of a world without Titans isn't possible, and it never was to begin with. In reality, the world outside of the walls is one in which children are fed to dogs just because they wanted to see an airship. The outside world views our characters as the monsters that need to be wiped out. For both us and Eren, the illusion that Attack on Titan is a story about good versus evil is now entirely gone. When Eren sees a Titan outside of Wall Maria, he walks up and gently places a hand on him, showing empathy and understanding for what he once would have considered his enemy. The Marley arc began with the audience suddenly being thrown into a confusing situation. All of the characters we know are gone, replaced by a new cast of protagonists from the outside world. In other words, we now see the perspective of our enemies. Just as we learn to understand and care about these characters, Eren has done the same. In the same position as the audience, Eren has found himself alone in a strange land surrounded by his enemies. But as he lives among them, he also begins to understand them, and even care about some of them. When he meets Reiner, he now understands that they are both the same. Reiner asks Eren if he's here to act on the promise that he made all those years ago, but Eren tells him to forget it. Everyone inside of the walls and across the sea is the same, and we understand this too after learning to care about the Marley cast. But now we reach the point where Eren and the audience separate. Despite coming to an understanding of his enemies, he makes the decision to transform onto the stage, launching his own attack on Marley. Despite coming to understand his enemies, Eren continues to fight. The question is, where will Eren's decision to fight lead him, and whether or not he's made the right choice? Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you enjoyed. I have more videos like this coming.